Hello and welcome to episode 10 of the Tainted Lands, Mist of Mournton. I am RJ Cresswell, the Dungeon Master. We're going to meet all the players here shortly, but first, during last week's session, we began with Junie waking in a prison cell, without any memory of being placed there. There was another person lying on the floor against the wall. She called out to the person, and when they didn't respond, she shook them, and the body rolled over onto its back, revealing a face that looked just like her own. There were bruises like fingers around their throat, indicating that they must have been strangled. Junie quickly began searching around the cell and discovered that the door was open. From there, she felt compelled to alter a piece of graffiti outside the cell. It had read, "The old man lies," but she took her hand and she wiped that away and found a piece of chalk and changed that to "The woman lies." She heard voices beckoning her down the corridor towards a kind of like bluish glow in the dark. She followed the voices and saw hundreds of rats, kind of like bathed in this bluish light, kind of like emanating this bluish light. And they covered the tunnel on the walls, on the floors, virtually everywhere she looked. But she made her way through the tunnel, and at the end she found a ladder that led her out of the tunnel. And she emerged outside in kind of like this forest clearing at night. From there, she made her way across the fields of Mournton and into the Wailing Woods. And while crossing the woods, Junie encountered the owlbear that your party had previously saved, but she got rattled and attacked it and narrowly escaped with her own life. Then she made her way to the encampment, but got caught in a bear trap that had been laid by the party earlier in the night. This caused Junie to scream profanities that woke Wynne from a terrible dream about her parents. It also woke everyone else. After catching up and devising a plan, the party set off into the woods, where you lost your way after some time and began wandering through a purple and green mist that briefly caused some members of the party to lose their wits. Then a light like a lantern appeared in the distance, and everyone followed it to a clearing in the woods with some bone sculptures hanging from the trees, and a large but rotten and hollowed oak tree. Sir Kay surmised that some of the bone sculptures were traps, and Wallace cast a few spells, which triggered an explosion of fire and bone shards. Then Wallace investigated the tree and found that it led underground to a burrow home, to this burrow-like home, where an aged woman stood stirring something in a pot with her walking stick. Wallace returned and told the party what he saw, because he had not been seen by the woman. Then the party discovered that there was no longer an exit to the clearing, where once there was a path, trees had overgrown it. Everyone decided to return to the burrow home and found themselves surprised when the old woman held out a bowl towards Sir Kay, who was leading the party, and said, "Welcome, Sir Kay." Before we go any further, I mentioned last week that the burrow home was warm compared to the winter air outside, and I also mentioned that there is this kind of pleasant smell as you enter it. And as you sit here sort of smelling it and being kind of taken aback by this woman knowing Sir Kay's name, you just have this thought that this scent that you smell, it reminds your character of their favorite food. So what I want you to do is I want you to introduce yourself, tell us who you're playing, and then let us know what that food is that your character is thinking about in that brief moment. Lewis.
Hello, my name is Lewis. I play Wallace MacDonald, who's a Hill Dwarf cleric. Wallace's favourite food is his Auntie Moira's mushroom pie.
Okay. All right. Jess.
I am Wynne. I play the elf druid, whose favorite food I think would be along the lines of like an apple crumble, just earthy and full of fall. And yeah,
Okay.
seeing the hag there, she is very nervous.
All right. Eric.
Hi, I'm Eric. I play Sir Kay, the Half-Drow Paladin, and I have a feeling with all the time he spends on the road, probably the fanciest thing he gets that he would really crave once in a while would be almost a venison stew. Like those few times he could catch deer or whatnot. it would have turned into a nice, like, hearty meal to keep the chill off.
All right, Shondell.
I'm Shondell. I play Junie, a half wood elf. Um, Junie's favorite food. It's interesting because her favorite food isn't anything cooked. It's just like fresh strawberries and blueberries and stuff like that because she grew up in the woods. That's what she found. That's what she ate. But yeah, that's her go-to treat.
Okay. And I would like to mention before we go any further that one of our players, Kristen, could not make it tonight. She's not feeling well, so we miss having her here. She normally plays this warlock gnome named Toby. So anyway, hopefully she'll be back with us next week. Now, let's return to our game. Your characters have descended into this burrow home, and as I mentioned last time, just to kind of set the scene once more, as you enter the tree, just this warm air hits you. You know, you've been traveling in the cold, and almost everywhere you have been throughout our entire story so far, your characters have, you know, kind of battled the cold. But this is quite warm, almost kind of like a blast of air as you go in. And when you go in, you see that the walls have kind of like been excavated. I mean, you can tell that they've been purposely dug out, and there are kind of like roots kind of like jutting out in places, and you see, you know, again, kind of like grubs crawling within, you know, the walls and things like that. And unlike the frozen ground outside, these walls are kind of like damp and soft, okay? And as I mentioned, as you kind of first get down there into this burrow home, this pleasant smell hits you. You know, it reminds you all of your favorite foods. And then as you sit there a little bit longer, you kind of smell like the scent, the sharp scent of the earth that you're within right now. It's, you know, kind of very pungent, and you hear dripping somewhere within this burrow home. It doesn't sound like it's coming from the room that you're in now, but kind of like somewhere off in the distance. And as you're glancing around, you see that there are just things hanging everywhere, like, you know, dried, you know, bits of herb, or, you know, spices, kind of like sitting out in containers. You see, you know, kind of like dead and desiccated things, you know, just kind of hanging from the ceiling as well. Nothing like humans or anything like that, but, you know, small animals, rodents, bats, things like that. Over, you know, not that this place kind of has corners, but over off to the side against a wall, you look on the ground and you see that there is, you know, the body of this desiccated cat just kind of like lying on its side. Looks mummified. And as you're looking around even more, you see that there are, you know, lots and lots of just kind of like clay jars, you know, stacked about in here. And as I mentioned as well last time, there are several kind of like straw beds or places where a person might sit, you know, within here. And then, of course, the thing that you definitely noticed first as you came in here, aside from the scent and the warmth, is this old woman. Very stringy hair. As you're looking at her, you know, see all of these kind of like liver spots on her skin, you know, wrinkles, and you look in her mouth as she's, you know, welcoming Sir Kay, and you see that her teeth are black and just kind of like rotted away. And I will point out, in case we've forgotten, when you were outside in our last session, this face had kind of like appeared in the darkness, and you saw the same thing. And Jess, I believe it actually appeared right by Wynn, and it was close enough. You even smelled kind of like this putrid sort of breath as, you know, she spoke to you as well. You know, so it wasn't just you know, a vision of her face. You know that there was something a little more substantial there. And she stands by this large iron pot. It's kind of like sitting in the middle of this room, and there's a fire built underneath it, and around that there's kind of like this ring of stones. She is dressed in rags. She's kind of like hanging onto this walking stick, And she's got a bowl in one hand, and she's extended it towards your party, primarily towards Sir Kay, who entered first. And then that's when she said, "Welcome, Sir Kay."
I'll step up and take the bowl from her if she's offering it, and I'll just say, "I'm afraid you have me at a bit of a loss, madam. Might I ask who's extending this kind of hospitality in these woods?"
"Yes, you may. My name is Hazel Mossfoot." And at her name, you kind of like glance towards her feet, and you notice, and I think I mentioned this last time, that the side that she's kind of like leaning on with her walking stick, her foot is kind of like a club foot. It's kind of like folded over, underneath. So, please take this. Come out of the cold. Have a seat. And she kind of like gestures towards kind of like the straw bales that are in there.
Yeah, I'll grab a seat, but as I'm doing so, I'll just throw a side glance at the rest of the group and try and give that look like, okay, polite as possible. Let's not do anything hasty.
Okay.
Yeah, as Sir Kay looks at me, I'm just going to be like, this is a beautiful home that you've got. I've looked at places in the Wailing Woods myself, but I've not found anything this. It's not bad. What's the soup? I'll have a bowl as well, and I'll smell it.
All right. So you said you'll smell it as you take it. Is that right?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll smile at her and kind of just
smile.
have a wee
Okay.
look at what's in the bowl.
All right. Well, as you kind of smile at her, saying those things that you said, she will, kind of like return the smile and, "Thank you, Wallace. I made this home myself. You'll find no one offering this. This is mine. I have made it." All right. And she'll.
What do you call it?
What do I call this?
Is this like your magnum opus? Your traditional dish, whatever, your specialty?
Oh, it's just a stew that I made out of things that I've found here and there.
I'm going to look down at the mummified cat and just be like, nah, it looks lovely. And smells lovely as well.
All right. And it still does, but as you smell it, this is kind of where, you're thinking about your Auntie Moira's mushroom pie. Is that what it was?
Yeah.
So you're thinking about your Auntie Moira's mushroom pie, and this is where you kind of like start picking up much more of kind of like the sharper earthen tones, and then that very pleasant kind of smell of your auntie's pie kind of turns to that rotten sort of mushroom scent that that I mentioned earlier. That's only briefly, and then kind of like after that, you're picking up much more on that more pleasant scent. But you can see she doesn't have a ladle or anything like that, and she hasn't provided you with spoons or anything. She's just got these wooden bowls that she's dipped down within there as she kind of like hands them to you, And as you take it and look at it, I mean, you can see that there are, root vegetables in here. It almost looks kind of like a gravy, and you can tell that there's meat in there too. There's like some kind of chunks, some peas, some other things as well. So, all right.
Junie
Sure.
is going to find one of the places where I guess there's a bed or a seat or something like that, and literally just collapse into it because she's so exhausted still.
All right. And you do that. What does Wynn do, Jess?
Wynn will watch the exchange between Sir Kay, Wallace, and the Hag, or Hazel, carefully, as she slowly sits down on an empty bale of straw.
Okay. All right, she does that. And Hazel will, kind of like dip another bowl into it and bring it over to you, to Junie, Shondell, and, she'll extend it. And you look absolutely exhausted, dearie.
Yes. Yes, I am.
Right.
And like Judy's like kind of drifting in and out of consciousness,
All right.
kind of.
Well, she'll hand you the bowl and she'll be like, take a load off and rest and have some of this. It'll warm you up from the cold. And then she'll go, dip another bowl in and bring it over to Wen as well. You as well, child. All right.
So,
You're my guest.
Hazel,
Welcome.
While her attention, like her back's turned to me and she's focused on the other members of the party, I'm just going to like raise the bowl to my mouth and fake like sipping out of it while I mutter a very quiet incantation of detect magic.
Okay. All right.
So, within 30 feet of me, basically anything magic glows that's not behind like full cover, and it only glows to me, but I can also tell like what type of magic it is, if it's enchantment, illusion, blah blah blah.
Okay. So as you cast this detect magic, you're kind of like looking around the room, and you see that the cat that is kind of like desiccated on the floor, it glows, and it glows with, as you're kind of like focusing on the type of magic it is, you can tell that there's kind of like this necromancy energy about it, So you can tell that. There is also this, and first I should mention Toby's there as well. She would have acknowledged Toby and offered him a seat in the bowl, and Toby will take it, and, he just, smells it and thank you, and sips a little bit of it. And what I was going to tell you is, as you notice, Toby taking the bowl and sipping it, you also see that near him, kind of like just sitting on the ground, is this black metal orb. Okay, you can tell it's metal. There's kind of like a sheen to it. And as you're looking at it, there are sigils, kind of carved into it that you don't recognize, and you can see that Toby is eyeing it, kind of on the ground as he's sipping his soup. So those things are definitely emitting magical energies.
Okay. Any idea what kind of magic's coming off the orb? Is it like?
Yeah, it's
me as a player has an idea of what it might be, but character wouldn't. So
it has a conjuration.
Oh, interesting.
Okay.
Would I see that stone with a passive perception at 18?
I mean, there's a possibility, but I'm going to say probably not, because there's just so much crap in here, It's, I mean...
Okay, fair enough. I have a hoarder.
Yeah, most definitely. That being said, it's organized, it's cluttered, but it's all kind of like pushed out of the way. There are definitely like walking paths and things like that, And it's not...
organized mess.
Yeah, it's not just like things stacked on top of things, it's jars here and there, stuff like that. So... but definitely a hoardery, kind of vibe going on.
Okay.
So,
as I'm kind of sitting, I'm going to look up to Hazel and go, so, where the neighbours like? You get much bother around here. I have this funny feeling that I've met you before, but I can't quite place it. And I mean, have we met before? Do I know you? You've been around Ironholm.
I'm afraid you're mistaken, Wallace. We've never met before. And by way of neighbors, no one. I hardly ever see anyone. Just the occasional traveler coming through, seeking a favor here and there.
What kind of favours do you do?
Oh, I offer many kinds of favors. It just depends on what a person might need.
Get your head out of the gutter, Lewis.
That's good to know, Hazel. This is a really genuinely lovely home, and thank you for this wonderful stew. Not much of a cat person, are you?
Well, I absolutely love cats. I love them to death, actually.
Yes, I can see. Well,
Oh.
I'm gonna try the soup now. I'm gonna kind of again do like a fake slurp and just like pretend to like I'm basically milking like this
But
is
by the time
top
he's
notch.
by the time he's faking his, just because like I didn't detect any magic off it, mine is gone. Like I've eaten all of it.
Okay. All right. And as you're doing that, she will kind of be aware of what's going on, and she'll say to you, I know what you're thinking. Oh, wow, this creepy old woman in the woods living alone. There's nothing wrong with the stew. You just have it. Nourish yourself. I need you strong, actually.
Need us for what? I might ask.
We'll get to that, but let's never mind business now. Just relax for a moment and tell me about yourselves and why are you in my neck of the woods?
Seeing that Sarkazit, I'm gonna eat the soup as well, the stew.
Okay, and Sir Kay, I will, or Eric, I'll point out when Sir Kay has the soup, the stew. I mean, it tastes pleasant. It's not the best food that you've ever had. You can very much tell that it's been kind of cobbled together from what she could find, but it's also not the worst thing you've eaten on the road either. And given that you came in pretty cold, and you've probably been having kind of like rations that aren't too good. It's actually kind of nice, and I also mean to tell you, you don't notice any ill effects or anything, from drinking or eating this stew as well. And Lewis, same thing with Wallace. You taste it, and it's not unpleasant. So there's that. So again, she's, what brings you to my neck of the woods?
Oh, I, uh, it's strange how you know our names. I mean, I'm not doubting that you're probably a very powerful person, but it's a matter of business that brings us here. Um, yes, we have only known each other a mere few days, me and my friends, and I do call them my friends because I hold friends to a very high regard, and I really hope, Hazel, that me and yourself can become good friends. As you seem like an interesting person. I don't mean to answer your question with a question, but how long have you been here yourself?
I've been here quite a while. Quite a while, quite a while. And, friends are nice. I kind of like to be by myself, but having a visitor occasionally is nice. I'd like to learn the news. I like to know what's going on beyond the woods. And yes, I know your names. I know your names because you're in my book. I've read about
Your
you.
book?
In your book? What book?
Never
Why are
mind
we in a
that.
book?
Never mind that. Just know you are.
Have you finished it? Can I read it?
No, it's not done yet.
Well, it's very interesting. How did you start writing this?
How did I start writing this or reading this?
Sorry, when did you start writing this book?
Oh, I don't write the book. It writes itself.
Oh, of course, but when did the book start? Write the book?
I couldn't tell you exactly, but it started writing itself around the time Mournton was founded.
And would I know how long Mournton's been around?
I don't know. Give me a history check.
Natural 20.
Natural 20. Okay. All right. I don't have an exact date for you because I haven't plotted that out, but you will know, that it was, I can tell you it was a few hundred years ago. And you'll know like the exact day of the exact year,
Yeah.
And like I've told you, you're in the year of the Raven now, the 13th year of the Raven. So, it would have been a century cycle, a couple of century cycles ago, So,
Okay.
but, with that roll, you'll know the exact day and everything. And it was a few hundred years ago.
Oh, well, that is very interesting, Hazel. Have you got many other books, or is this your big thing that you got a name for it?
No, I don't have a name for it. It's, has no title on it. It's just a brown leather book. Very big.
Can I name it?
Certainly, Wallace. You go ahead.
Okay. I'll get back to you in that one, and I'm gonna start just kind of scruffling my beard and thinking about names for the book.
All right, you do that. Now, I've told you more than I intended to, but you've not shared too much with me yet. So tell me what goes on in
What do we
Mournton.
need to share if you're already reading about us?
I only get things from one perspective in the book. I'd like to know yours.
Mournton's been going through a spot of trouble lately, and, well, we've been trying to find the source and deal with it. We're on a hunt, so to speak.
Yes. So I understand. All right.
The Tainted Lands Mists of Mournton. That's the book name. I've got it.
It's quite fitting, Wallace. It's quite fitting.
Thank you.
All right.
Sorry.
Hazel, you wouldn't by chance know anything by the title of the Book of Mirrors, would you?
Yes, I do. What would you like to know about the Book of Mirrors?
At this point, Judy, who was pretty much completely asleep, kind of perks up a little bit.
Okay.
We came across our own copy, actually. It seemed to contain a number of stories surrounding Mournton and its surrounding area. We were wondering if you knew anything about a story of a beast known as Lessic.
I do know things about Lessic. And I do know of the Book of Mirrors. I can tell you that a lot of it is fairy tale, but based on some truth here and there. Now, I sort of surmised that you might want to know a little bit about Lessic. I can share that with you. And I also know that you seek it. And I'm willing to help. But first you must help me. I'll help lead you to where you wish to go. But I need you to do something for me first.
You wanted some hair or something?
I need you to recover something for me.
I'm listening.
All right. Many years ago, there was a man, an earl, by the name of Roggenwalder. Roggenwalder the Short. He had brought his armies through this land, into the Wailing Woods, and he sought me out, and I loaned him a coin. It's my lucky coin, and he was to return it. And there was a bit of other payment as well, but he died before he returned it, or gave me his payment. And he's buried within a barrow in the woods, and I want my coin back. And if you retrieve that for me, then I can lead you to Lessic.
That doesn't
So,
sound sketchy at all.
mm, so this Earl, did you know? Is he in any of your books? Do you have a book about him that I could read, maybe?
You may not read the Book of the Tainted Lands, Mist of Mournton, but he is in the book as well.
All right. I think it was quite a sizable book. Then we're talking maybe 1,000 odd, but yeah,
Very
sizable.
Very
Yeah.
sizable.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough. Well, okay. You say you wanted to know more about us. Yeah, you already seem to know a lot about it. Like for instance, you knew my name. Yeah, you almost knew that we were coming and expected us and greeted us in such a welcoming way with this really nice stew, by the way. Really, really nice stew. It reminds me that back home, Mum, that's just. But anyway, what is it you want to know about me specifically?
Oh, it's just I rarely see people here, and I enjoy the company and the news that people bring when they do come.
All right.
Nothing in
No.
particular.
Um, do you have a bathroom?
A bathroom? No.
It's a room where I can need to see a man about a dog, if you know what I mean, Hazel.
All right. You can go above ground, into the woods, the clearing.
I can hold. I'm gonna like, don't want to go back out there just yet. I'm just gonna sit down and think for a second.
All right. Now, you sit down and you think. And she grabs a bowl for herself and sits on, a kind of bed of straw as well. And takes great pains, getting down. She doesn't seem to move very well. She is, again, aged, elderly. And she sits with her Sue and sips it. And so, do you think, would you be interested in my proposal?
If it helps the town, yes. I do have a question now. Something you might be able to fill us in on outside of the deal. With all you know, are we on the right track? Is Lessig the thing that attacked Mournton?
Spoilers, man. Read the book when it's finished.
I'm not much of a reader, unfortunately.
She'll look. You can see that she considers your question for a moment. And she says, "You're on the right track, but I don't wish to say more until you have returned my coin to me. Then I will tell you everything you need to know."
Well, that's certainly better than us tromping around the woods for weeks trying to find the thing, I'd say.
I can tell you, you're in my part of the woods now, and you'll never find Lessig unless I want you to.
Okay. From vague to vaguely threatening like that. Okay.
And she smiles as she says it.
Don't mean to annoy you or anything, but do you ken who Lessig is? You encountered them before. We came across this, and I'm assuming this is your doing. This really strange mist man. I don't know. People started acting weird when we were in it. Does that kind of like? Are you hiding from Lessig? Is this like a kind of protection from him? Or is that giving too much of the game away?
You'll see kind of like a look come over her face, and you can't quite make exactly what it is, but she when you say, are you scared of him, are you hiding from him, she'll, I fear no one. I fear no one, not even Lessig. And regarding your other questions, I'm not sure that you understand exactly how this works. I have told you, I will tell you all you need to know about Lessig. But first, you do something for me.
Of course. So that's bad.
If I tell you what I know about Lessig, what's to stop you from just leaving?
Well, by the sounds of it, if you wanted us dead, then you would have probably no issue doing this.
I mean, no one ever said anything about murder. I just said you wouldn't find your way to Lessig.
I guess. It's this battle then.
Yes.
Does it have a name? Any creepy stuff there? Or is this,
Well, if you
can we
find
know
corpses
some more
creepy,
information about it?
if you find corpses creepy, it is a grave. And as far as I know, it just holds Ragnvalder the Short.
We've run into a bit of an issue lately of corpses getting up and walking. You suspect we'll encounter the same there?
I mean, I know this is a thing that is possible.
Good to know.
Nothing we can't handle, Hazel. We'll be fine in that regard. I was just more interested in some of the lore of the place, and kind of who Ragnvalder was as a person. I'm just nosy like that. You can put that into the book if you like, bit of character building and whatnot.
I'm sure it'll write itself. And Ragnvalder, I mean, I could tell you more about Ragnvalder. Again, he was an earl. He came through with an army. He was facing another army. He was betrayed by one of his own men.
What was his name?
I don't know the lad's name.
Fair.
He's been lost to history. But Ragnvalder has not been lost to me.
Again, this coin is. Why did Ragnvalder want it? The lucky coin.
Because it's lucky.
So, in what sense?
In the sense it might bring a person better fortune. Unfortunately, it didn't work well for him.
Yes, that's my worry. Well, okay.
How will we know this coin if we do find it? What does it look like?
You'll know this coin because it is made of a metal that you won't recognize. Glows with a green sheen. There's a face on one side and a face on the obverse. You won't recognize it as belonging to any country that you know of. My hope is that he was buried with it.
Well, we are a group fairly well suited to making sure dead things remain dead, so it shouldn't be too difficult to go retrieve.
I should think you'll make easy work of this. I will even guide you there, much as I guided you here.
You're right.
Yes, my light.
Might we rest a bit first? We are all a bit out of sorts.
Certainly, you are my guests.
Very well.
If you'd like
If
more
that's the
food,
case,
you're welcome to it.
I think I'm alright for now. However, I do need I'll follow my friend Junie into sleep for the time being.
Yeah, Junie's out. She probably missed half the conversation. She's so tired.
Okay. All right.
She's just gonna count on her friends to fill in the blanks in the morning, or whatever.
Okay. All right. Well, that happens. Hazel tells you, I've prepared beds for you. She motions to the straw that you're sitting upon. They're clean. You'll find no lice or anything like that within there. They should be comfortable.
Much appreciated. And I'm gonna take the armor off and I'll settle into sleep because I'm actually pretty decently tapped out right now.
Okay. All right. Now, before we go any further, I noticed that we've lost Lewis for a bit, so I'm going to give him a second, see if he comes back. While we're waiting on that, just wanted to say, hey, it looks like my friend Tino, one of my friends and local players, joined us in chat tonight. So, Tino, thanks very much for dropping by. So, You're going to settle into sleep. Junie has probably already begun sleeping.
Yep.
Jess,
So-
I think
Okay.
that Wynn will take her armor off, but will simply trance.
trance. Okay, yeah.
Oh, yeah, full elves.
Hello, can you hear me? I cut out there for a
Yeah.
second.
Yeah,
Yep,
Yeah,
we
you're
can
back.
hear you.
Sorry, I was in this really weird thought. What just happened there?
All right. Essentially, what happened is we were waiting for you mostly, but I kind of like went around, and it appears as though Junie is already sleeping. Sir Kay, after having this bit of conversation with Hazel, drifts off to sleep. He declines another bowl of stew, drifts off to sleep, and Wynn, being an elf, kind of goes into her trance. She's not lying down and sleeping, more like, she's meditating, but it does, kind of like draw her kind of out of, being fully aware and things like that, because she is resting as she's doing it, so. And then now that you're back, you can tell us about Wallace. So everybody has kind of like begun resting.
Okay, doke. Seeing that everyone's going to bed, does it look like Hazel's going to go to bed, or is she kind of like staying up?
Well, she still has her stew for the moment, so she's finishing that. And
Is she on like a straw bed? Is there somewhere where I can
She's-
kind of sit closer to her?
well, I mean, you're relatively close to her. There's not, this is not a huge place that you're in right now,
Mm-hmm.
So I'd say probably you're within 7 feet from her, something like that.
All right. Wallace is going to kind of like sit up and stuff, and if she's eating her strays, he's going to ask for another bowl.
All right. So she'll dip out another bowl, and or actually she'll tell Wallace, because she's down, and again, like I said, she's got some mobility issues that you've noticed. She'll, by all means, go and help yourself. Have as much as you would like.
Thank you very much. I'd like to have a little chat with you just briefly before I go off to bed. And I'm going to kind of like pick up the ladle and pour myself another bowl of stew and kind of like take a big hearty sip from it. You say that you do favours, yeah,
Yes.
for people. I'd like to talk to you about something not related to anything going on with these people, and it will also give me a chance to maybe explain a bit about myself for your book.
Go on.
I need.
Oh, good.
I am looking for someone. I don't know if you know this. I don't know what you know about me, but I'm looking for a man named Ragnar. He killed my friend in a very brutal fashion. He pretty much destroyed the monastery that I was part of, and I'm going to point to the necklace with the chrysalis on it and kind of point to that, assuming she'd know like what deity that is. So yes, I was asking around Mournton, and I had very little luck in sort of pursuing him. I was told that he was heading to the end of the world, and from my brief time in your pleasant company, I've realised that you have quite a significant amount of power. I mean, we can discuss like what you would want in return for the information I seek, but I would like to know if you could find out either where he is or like what he's doing, in a sense. It's something very personal to me, and if you want me to go into details about things that might help you with that, or if you need something else, then I'm more than happy to cooperate.
All right. Well, I can tell you, I only know very little about Ragnar. He did pass through here. I knew that you were
He spoke
searching
to you.
him. No, not. He passed through Mournton.
Ah.
I know him from the book. But I did not know that he had killed your friend.
Yes, it was a very dark time in my life. Uh, he's, when I grew up, I was a bit of an outcast and whatnot. But I was friends with Ragnar. We would always talk of tales. I don't know if you're familiar with it. It's something called a rune hammer. It's a very fabled weapon. Um, and it was always kind of, we would joke about one day leaving Ironholm and leaving our families and going out to find this. But then we kind of did. But this, I don't know what it was. It just overtook him, and almost like a paranoia, a jealousy, took over him. And I spent some time, obviously, getting into priesthood and whatnot. Um, and they came to visit me before we were departing, and he he killed Feetserk. He split his back open and removed his ribs and his lungs from that, and I couldn't move for the life of me. Even though every bone in my body wanted to, I I struggled, and I don't know if you've ever suffered loss like that. And make sure to add this into your book, but it's not nice. These pipes I carry with me, and I'm gonna like let her hold them.
All right. So you
These are
extend
these
your
are
hand
very
and she'll take
dear
them
to me.
from you. So you say they're
These
very
are
dear
ve-
to you.
Yeah, these are very dear to me. These are made from Feetserk's bones. When I tell people that, I get a lot of strange looks. I don't really tell a lot of people that. To be honest, that these guys, I mean, they don't really care, which is kind of good. That they're the first people I've ever really met that haven't judged me for it. I was wondering if there was a possible way, if you could let me speak to him one last time, or if you could do anything in any way to help me find Ragnar, and whatever you want, it's yours. Aside from your coin, of course.
Well, Wallace, I can tell you this story of your friend. It does touch me. I can tell that you must have cared deeply for Feetserk, and yes, I've known loss before. I experienced it myself. I've known love before. Once upon a time.
Can I insight check that? Like
Sure.
3.
She seems to be sharing a genuine moment with you right now.
Okay.
All right. I've known loss and love before, once upon a time, and I would like to help you. I would like to help you. But my help does come with a cost. As charitable as I am, I do have to make my own money in this world, do you understand? And I would be willing to help you. Let's test your mettle first, and if you can return my coin to me, then we'll talk. We'll talk
All right.
about what I could do for you. Now, speaking to Feetserk would be possible. I'm not sure if you'd want to do it. And she looks at the bone pipes that she's holding in her hands right now and looks back at you. It's something I could do. By the way, I can tell your friend must have been a striking fellow. The bone structure is remarkable. You see her examining. I've never seen remains as fine as these before. She'll hand them back to you.
Yeah. Didn't really have much time to, examine his remains, but yeah, pretty nice bones as far as bones go, I guess. Well, thank you for your time. I'm gonna kind of like slip the rest of the shoe. I'll see you when we return with the coin. And I'm just gonna like roll over and kind of awkwardly sit there like, what?
All right, you do that. Okay. So you roll over to rest. Okay.
Yeah.
As you do that, she'll tell you, well, if you're going to rest, then I will allow you to sleep, and I will retire to my own room. And she kind of struggles to get up off of her mat. She takes her stick and kind of like presses it into the dirt, and gets up.
Finally met a woman who unnerves Wallace.
I'm pausing because you look like you want to say or do something, Wallace or Lewis.
I want to cast command, but
Don't do it. Please
I
don't.
don't know. Like, and I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna risk it. Okay, I'm gonna go to sleep. I'm just gonna be like, that is lovely, Hazel. I'll see you tomorrow. Night night. Don't let the petrified mummies bite.
All right, you do that, and as she gets up, she'll say, well, good night to you, and I'll be off to rest as well. We'll speak in the morning about the barrows and where to go. And with that, she kind of like looks over to the desiccated, kind of cat corpse in the corner, and she says, Tulip, Tulip. And as she says that, the cat's kind of like desiccated flesh sprouts this kind of a long gray fur, and it looks like this very beautiful, just cat, and it sits up and mews. And then as she calls its name once more, Tulip, it follows her, and she retires kind of like towards the back of the room. And as she goes back there, you see that there is kind of like an exit to this room, and as she stands in the exit, she kind of like touches the wall near it, and it just kind of like solids over. So like earth just kind of like grows in its place.
Okay. Oh, I was gonna sneak into her room or something, but man, this is okay. Fair enough.
All right.
That'd be a very, very bad idea considering where we're all sleeping tonight.
All right. And as you do that, you kind of like look over. You see that all of your compatriots are, either entranced or sleeping. And you see that Toby is sleeping as well. And he's, kind of snoring, this kind of old man gnomish snore. And you see that he's kind of like curled up, and he's got something within his arms, as he's sleeping.
Can I go over and have a wee look?
Yeah. You see that within his arms, he's got like this metal, kind of sphere, and it's made out of, again, it's a blackish kind of metal. It has a sheen to it that's kind of like reflecting in the bit of firelight that's hitting him and hitting it, and you can tell that there are just kind of like these sigils etched within the surface of the metal. Being a dwarf, you've seen, kind of like work like this before. It's fine craftsmanship.
Okay, can I make a check to see, like if I've seen stuff like this before, like what its purpose would be?
Oh, I mean like the metal work. I don't mean like this particular
like what the actual
device.
function. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't feel comfortable with Toby sleeping with that thing, considering every time Toby gets attached to weird stones, weird stuff happens. I'm gonna try and take it out of his hand.
Okay. All right. So just give me a sleight of hand check.
That's a good call.
Oh, okay.
Please don't fail us.
13.
13. Okay. He's asleep, and you go and you take it from him, and it's not much of a problem for you to do that. I mean, as you do take it, he kind of like, kind of like stirs a little bit as he, snorts, a little bit as you take it from him.
Okay.
And then he rolls over.
Okay. Is there any other petrified cats in the room?
No, that was the only petrified cat.
Is there anything like, okay, see the sigil, I'm going to go over to, so see in relation, Eric, to where the bag of holding is, like, would you have that, like, on you, or would that be, like, kind of next to the bed, like, sitting there?
I probably have taken that off with my armor, so it's like, the armor's, like, next to the bed I'm with, and the bag and, like, my other pouches and stuff would be, like, sitting kind of piled up next to the armor, so it'd be there.
Okay. I'm gonna put the sigil into the bag of holding, and I'm gonna. Is there anything I could? I don't even think I could write. I'm not even gonna say anything. Yeah, I'm just gonna put it in the bag of holding,
Okay.
and I'm gonna go to sleep.
Finally.
All right. You go to sleep. All right. Every one of you will rest, and you will dream pleasant dreams. You haven't had any pleasant dreams in days that you can recall. You've had quite the contrary, nightmares, or at the very least, extremely unrestful sleep. So, you sleep, you wake the next morning. As you wake, the fire's kind of died down. You're the only ones in this room. Though the fire's died down, it's still warm.
So we're doing that favor today, yes?
Aye.
What are we doing again? Because, you know,
Finding a coin.
a coin? What?
Yeah, man. It's our
It's a
lucky
lucky
coin.
coin.
Apparently.
Lucky coin. Okay.
A little grave robbing, and we get led to Lessick, apparently.
Yeah.
What were you saying about the dead coming to life? Toby speaks up. You don't really think that's going to happen again, do you?
I sure hope not.
I'm at this point in these woods,
I
I
feel
wouldn't
like,
be surprised.
yeah, I feel like what happens, whatever. What can go wrong will, you know?
At least we know the biggest one is dealt with. There can't be anything bigger than Felly around.
You say that now, but we don't know what else is out there. So how about you just,
Keep your
Don't.
mouth shut.
yeah, don't go there. Alright, I guess let's go get this coin. It seems like a fairly simple task, even though I don't understand even why we're doing this, but it's a coin, like, whatever. And get on with what we need to do.
But it's so warm in here.
You're welcome to stay, Toby. I don't think it will require all of us to do this trick.
True.
We'll have to come back here for you anyways.
That's also true.
All right. If you really don't mind.
We'll say it guarantees us returning to her with her coin, instead of just running off with it like the Earl apparently did.
All right. Plus, there's so many things here.
Yes, there are so many things here, Toby. Please.
And you see that he kind of like looks around his, area.
Toby, do not, I repeat, do not get yourself into trouble. Don't touch anything.
What are you even talking about?
Don't look at anything. Don't read anything. Just don't.
Out of character side note, I'm realizing we have a funny habit of offering up a party member as hostage a lot. The second time it's in like 3 sessions this has happened.
Yep. Yep. All right. So, as you're all kind of talking about leaving Toby there to ensure your return, and Toby seems, quite fine with that as he's looking around, and you can tell that he appears to be looking for something. Wallace, in particular, knows this. Perhaps not everyone else. But you can certainly tell that he's looking for something in particular. And as you're having this conversation, amongst your group, Toby will get up with his bowl and go over and kind of like ladle out, some or scoop out some, more of the stew for himself and go sit down and begin sipping on it. And then Wallace, where you saw the wall kind of like close over last night as she touched it, you noticed that the kind of like earth there just seems to crumble away to the floor, and she steps out. Hazel steps out. And when she does, you all will notice that there is a cat with her. And the cat is kind of like this long, gray-haired cat. Again, a very kind of beautiful-looking cat. And it's just kind of like, next to her legs, just kind of like, rubbing against her legs and things like that.
Well, Junie was asleep when this thing,
Mm-hmm.
quote unquote, came to life, so she didn't realize it was alive. So now that she sees it, Junie is going to lose her mind.
She's a fear of cats.
Yes.
I forgot about that.
Probably gonna hide behind one or all of you and like start shrieking. She's just gonna be like, get it away from me. We need to go. We need to go. Please, can we go? Please, get it away.
That's quite rude to say about hostess.
Junie!
It's
what's-
a cat. I don't like cats.
Hazel. She's
Please. She's just gonna like slowly back towards the exit entrance, whatever. Just like
You should probably head up.
yes, that's a great. I'm gonna go.
Yeah.
It's just it's gonna stay here. I'm gonna go. Okay, I'll be outside. I'm gonna go.
And you can tell that Hazel appears a bit puzzled. You're leaving, as quickly as you can.
Yes.
What's wrong with your
Undead.
friend?
Undead, eyeless creatures, an owlbear, and a cat scares her?
Tulip?
I don't know.
Tulip is harmless.
This is new to us. We had no idea.
If I would have known, I would. She looks down, and she kind of like it bends down a little bit and kind of like gives it, scritchies behind its ears or whatever, and then you see her say, "Tulip, tulip, tulip." She says it 3 times, and as she does it, it falls over dead, and its body just kind of like immediately mummifies.
I look
Just
like a
stare.
living. I look like a living copy of that, like the one meme where she's like, and just that's all I look like for a solid minute.
Yep.
Where did you get Tulip? Is there like a pets at home near Mournton or something? Pretty cool cats.
Tulip was a stray. I rescued her.
Rescue cat. That's lovely.
Junie's gonna yell from wherever she is. I'm assuming outside at this point. She's just gonna yell, "If you guys are finished talking, can we please go?" Thinking that the cat is still alive, obviously.
Before we do go, just a couple of things, Hazel. Our friend Toby here we know how you said you love company from visitors, and he's volunteered himself to keep you company whilst we go and get this coin, kind of also as an assurance of our return.
All right. Your friend is welcome to stay.
Thank you. And
He looks like he
whatever
could
you
use
have
a
to say.
rest. All right. What was the last thing you said, Lewis?
Just about the barrel.
Yes. It's not too far from here, not too far from all. I would go and get it myself, but I have problems walking around, you see. It's not too terribly easy. I don't like to stray too far from here. So I can
Don't worry
lead you
about it,
there.
Hazel.
I will make sure that you get there safely, upon the safest paths. All you have to do is follow my light. And don't stray from the light. If you do,
Follow
it
the
could
light.
could prove perilous.
Good to know.
Oh, okay.
Do you care for anything else before you leave? Some more stew, perhaps?
Uh,
No.
brought a sandwich, man. That'll be good for breakfast.
All right. Does anybody else have more stew or anything? Or say anything else to her?
When we'll have some stew before she goes, quick.
Okay.
Can I give Hazel a hug before I leave?
You
Again,
can,
Junie's gonna yell, "It's cold
You
out
can-
here, let's go!"
you can certainly try.
Okay, I want to just be like, well, Hazel, it's been lovely meeting you. I want to see if it's like an illusion or something. Like, if I when I hug her, if she's not what she kind of like seems to be.
Okay. All right. You hug her, or you go to hug her, and she can tell you've got arms out, coming in, and you see, she kind of like backs away for a moment, but then kind of like sees that you don't appear to mean any harm or anything like that, and and she allows you to hug her, and then she's holding on to her walking stick with one hand, but she puts the other one around you. And again, as you're this close to her, this kind of like sort of like earthy, sharp, pungent smell that I mentioned earlier, not the decay, but just kind of like the smell of, the earth.
Yeah.
It seems to almost kind of like emanate from her, like she smells like that now that you're this close to her. I mean, you can, as you put your hands on her robe and clothes, you can tell that they're just sort of like caked, with soil and things like that, Again, I told you they were, rags or whatever, but yeah, the soil is kind of like seeped its way into the clothing, and it itself feels, moist. And then as you're close to her and, she speaks, to you as you're this close, you do smell that, just kind of like wretched scent of her, rotting mouth or whatever. But in terms of touching her, I mean, she feels pretty solid, I mean, frail, but she's there.
The most eerie thing is, like, during that whole description, all I can think of is that she smells like a fresh dug grave.
Mm-hmm.
Oh god,
That's a pretty apt description. Yeah.
I'm just kidding. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm kind of gonna be like, what's that scent you're wearing? It's very nice. My Auntie Moira actually smells like that as well.
Junie's just gonna
Must be
know.
going around.
Junie's just gonna know, even though she's not even present. She's gonna be like, "Wallace, let's go!"
I'm just gonna like kind of, like, when you get shouted on, you just kind of like know you're in trouble a wee bit.
Yeah. Well,
I'm just gonna then boost.
All right, so you just kind of back away, head up, things like that. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, you do that, and then Toby will stay behind, and you leave out the exit that you entered through. And when you get up there, Junie's kind of waiting impatiently for you in the clearing. And Junie, you weren't particularly paying attention to it, but as the rest of you get up there, Wallace, you in particular, you're kind of glancing around the clearing, and the way that you had come in has, kind of like opened up now. It's no longer, shrouded by or encased by forest. So there's a definite way to leave this clearing now.
Okay.
Also, and again, Wynn, what was your passive perception? Or just what's Wynn's passive perception?
It is 14.
14, that's good enough. The two of you will notice as well those kind of like bone sculptures that you had shattered the day before. They're there now.
Back intact.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, you know where they are. You know where they are, but they're very much there. So they're intact, hanging from the trees.
Alright.
Okay.
So there's
After
that.
meeting her, might
No.
not be a good idea to destroy them again, though.
Yeah, I'm not gonna touch them right now.
We can just avoid them. There's no point this time.
All right. So, as you're standing in the clearing, a distance, just kind of like past the exit here, through the mist of the woods, you will notice that same sort of kind of like eerie, just floating orb of light that led you here the day before. Again, it looks almost as if someone's carrying a lantern in the distance, is kind of what it appears like to you. Now, before we leave the clearing and you go any further, how about we go ahead and take about a 5-minute break, and then we'll come back and resume from here.
Beauty.
Sounds good.
Okay, cool. Right, I'm freaked out, man. Like, what?
I think Wynn's freaked out too by Wallace.
Yeah.
No, Kay's fine with it. He's just like, alright, let's just do what we gotta do to get this job done.
All right.
I'm doing it for a reason. I'm going to talk to you when we come back.
All right. We'll take 5 now. So, before we took our break, you all were standing in the clearing outside of...
RJ,
Yes.
whatever you have both of those audio inputs turned on right now,
Uh-huh.
whichever one you had turned off before is now producing a faint echo in the background.
Okay. All right. So, give me just a second. Has that resolved the echo?
As far as I can tell, it has.
Okay,
Yeah, so
but you
that's-
register my audio, okay?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, all right then. I'll just leave that one off. So, okay. All right then. When we left off, you all were standing in the clearing outside of Hazel's kind of burrow home, just with the kind of like bone sculptures hanging from the trees. And unlike when you went in the night before, the clearing had kind of like closed itself off and it appeared to just be very dense forest all around you, there is now a visible exit. And before we left, this kind of like glowing orb of light had materialized. And you had noticed it before. It's kind of like in the mist, a distance from you. And as I mentioned, kind of appears to be sort of like kind of like someone's carrying a lantern in the distance or something like that. And you see that. And Hazel had mentioned to you that she would lead you to the barrow and that it was not too terribly far from where you are. So, you see the light.
Follow it.
So it's time to go grave robbing.
Let's follow it.
All right.
Let's do this.
You will follow it. And as I've mentioned, as I mentioned last time, the woods in this part of, or the forest in this part of the Wailing Woods, is a lot more treacherous than when you first, came in. Again, there are plenty of plants, brambles, thorns, things like that off to the side, and just the sheer density of the forest is much thicker here, And as I also mentioned, there's not much of a visible trail to follow as well, Looks as though too many people don't come too far through this way in the woods. But as you follow the light, it leads you on a path that is passable, So it looks as though as long as you keep following it, like she said, you'll be led wherever you're going. So you'll continue on through the woods. And I'm going to abbreviate your trek just because there's really nothing to stop you between here and there. But you'll probably travel a couple of hours' time through the woods, and not much changes by way of scenery or anything. And eventually you will get to probably a much larger clearing than you've seen before, and the whole sky above you is just open. And as you go into this clearing, there's a very obvious barrow within the clearing, but that's not the first thing that you notice. The first thing that you notice within the clearing is there is kind of like this knight's pavilion in there, And it's Sir Kay, you've definitely seen these before at kind of like tournaments and things like that. It's just sort of this big tent, and it is sable and silver. It kind of almost looks like a circus tent with the stripes or whatever down it, but they're just kind of alternating, black and gray or whatever, but sable and silver. And you'll see some banners kind of like outside of it as well. And on the banners, or the banners themselves are sable, and then there's kind of like this silver spider on the couple of banners outside of the pavilion. You'll also notice within here there are a few graves. They're out of here, other than the barrow as well. So you see kind of like some graves, and they're just marked with kind of like, it's sort of like very rudimentary, just kind of like sticks, arranged, poking into the ground, things like that, held together by twine. So what you see outside of the tent as you're going into the clearing is a person standing out there, and they're by this kind of like barrel. And Sir Kay, what you assume that they're doing is they appear to be scouring something in a barrel of sand. You've seen knights do things like this before, like when armor gets a little rusty and stuff like that. So they appear to be maintaining their arms, And the person that you see there is dressed in kind of like this black armor. And from the distance, you can tell that it bears the same sigil on its chest, and that is kind of like this silver spider that's on its chest. And the person themselves, from your distance, appears to be, a more kind of like masculine type features. You think that you see a little bit of a beard on the chin. The hair is very red. The skin is kind of like lighter in shade. So hair is kind of long and pulled back behind them. Person of pretty good size, probably similar to you, Sir Kay. And you see this from the distance.
Any weapons on them?
You see that there is very much not on them, but there is a great sword that is kind of like just leaning against leaning against this table that's outside of the tent.
So I was just testing it. Apparently I still have an Echo RG, but you don't, which is weird. So it might be our input that still does, but your input doesn't.
Okay, as long as everything's
That's an odd thing.
coming through. Yeah, that's weird. So
we'll figure it out eventually.
Okay.
But I mean, random night in the woods outside of a tomb. Screw it. I just walk in and I go, "Hello there."
You do that, and as you're approaching, you see that he's noticed you as you're approaching. He's not, taken by surprise or anything, and you go forward and, well, hello there, and he returns it. Hello, yourself. What are you doing here?
Well, we've come to retrieve something from the barrow. And yourself?
I'm sworn to protect this barrow. I'm Sir Pake of Tadril, Knight of the Barrow.
I am Sir Cadron Lorenan, Knight of the Road. Well met.
Well met, indeed.
So, are we going to have to fight this out, or is there some other way you'll allow us to pass?
I'll allow you to leave the way you came.
Take that as a no. Alright.
See, mate, this is where we've got a wee bit of a problem now. Don't know why you're out protecting this barrel, but let's be honest, there's four of us and one of you. Come on, man, this doesn't need to end in your death. I'm sure we could work something out. Actually, I have something that you might be interested in. Sir Kay, could you please go to the bag of holding for me?
All right, and as you do that, you see that he just kind of, almost dismisses and ignores you and just puts his hand up towards you and turns towards you, Sir Kay, and says, "So is this the kind of knight you are? It's going to be 4 against 1?"
Do you want to make a square, bro?
I've made many squares.
I need to think of how to word this. I'm a knight who's here to do a job, so I won't allow it to be a duel to the death. If you can promise me a duel to a win, rather than death, I'll make it 1-on-1. After all, your Earl does owe a debt. And we're just here to collect.
You may be mistaken. This is not my Earl. I am only sworn to protect the barrow. Nothing goes in, nothing comes out.
Then who would you be sworn to, if I might ask?
My father was sworn, and before him my grandfather. And we were sworn to Duke. Wasn't prepared for a name, so excuse me.
You could say name. Let's go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Duke Intermore.
Very well. And I won't disrespect you and your family's challenge this way. Let us have it be a duel to victory rather than death. And if I win, we pass in, we retrieve a single coin, and we exit. That is all.
Alright, give me a persuasion.
No jump-ins, no chips. Clean fight, boys.
Yeah, do it. Hold on, can I pull up my abilities here? Persuasion. Dirty 20.
Dirty 20? Okay. I suppose that's honorable. Though, I can only promise I won't intend to kill you.
I just kind of nod and I say, well, wouldn't be the first time I've come close.
You kill him and I'll be skipping rope with your intestines, mate.
Cool.
Calm down, Wallace.
Alright.
Seriously, man, you're gonna get us into more trouble.
Nah, you
This
just
is
see, like, I'm kind of
amazing.
tugging at my gauntlets a little bit and just prepping.
I'm going to stand back and, like, you know what I mean? I'm going to kind of usher to Win and Ginny to, like, kind of, like, make space for them to duel in. And I'm going to, like, drop my hand axe as well on the floor to show that I've got no intent to, like, getting involved with this.
Alright. Okay, you do that, and I will make note of, or let you know that you definitely know that he heard you. He looked towards you, but he's largely
Just
kind of ignored you, just as he did earlier.
Okay.
And as you're closer, you see kind of like in this barrel of sand that he's got, he was just sort of scouring this helm. And as you're closer, you can tell that he's wearing the armor that he's wearing is like this black plate mail, So he's wearing plate, doesn't carry a shield, but he does have a great sword, and his arms appear to be of fine quality. So.
Okay. I'm going to pass Wallace the bag of holding so that he knows, like, I'll pass Wallace the bag of holding and, like, any other small coin pouches I have on me. Actually, no, I'll pass the coin pouches to Junie because I don't trust Wallace.
Good decision, mate.
I suspect I wouldn't get those back full, if at all. So I'll pass those to Junie. And just so that I can't, like, pull potions or whatever, because I intend to go into this honorably.
All right.
That's it.
No,
Square.
keep it tucked away.
All right.
Before they thingy, I'm going to just tell them about, I'll just briefly do it so we can kick on a combat, just about what I saw last night with Toby. Like in the thingy and how I put it in the bag. I'm going to tell that to Win and Ginny.
Okay.
Alright. So,
RJ, just for my sake, can you say the knight's name again? I didn't get it.
Sir
Yeah,
Sir Pake
Gotcha.
of Tagil.
Cool.
And he said that he's the Knight of the Barrow.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay, so I guess this is happening then.
All right.
All right.
Now, as you know, as Wallace is kind of like giving this information to Wynn and Junie, you know, he's taking his helm out and kind of like putting it on, and just kind of like you can tell that he's just kind of like situating himself, making sure everything is laced properly, and wasn't expecting a battle today or anything like that. So, but as he gets his helm on, he will look towards you and. I accept your terms. This does not have to be to the death. I will not intend to kill you, but I will also offer no quarter unless you ask for it.
Death is death. If it happens, it happens. And I just shoot a sideways look at Wallace like, let it be, bro. Let it be.
No, yeah, I've completely like dropped my weapon and stuff, and I'm standing like a distance away.
All right. Outside of this kind of like tent type area, again, like I mentioned, you notice a few graves that are marked there. They don't appear to be freshly dug, but you can still see that the earth is a bit disturbed from when they were dug. And you very much know that they're graves. In addition to that, you see the mound kind of like a little, not far off in the distance, but a little beyond the tent, beyond his tent. And then there's just kind of like this open sort of like grassy area within the clearing, so he's kind of like situated himself with his armor and everything and his helm's on, and then he goes over to the table kind of like near the barrow where he was scouring the helm, and he just kind of like takes hold of his great sword in both hands and motions over towards the clearing. Let's have a go.
Okay. Before I step into the ring with this guy, I'm just going to look over to the group in general and just say, if I do die here, you'll find an item among my personal effects with a letter and a note strapped to it. Read the note and follow its instructions if you don't mind. That's all.
You got it. Good luck. Please don't die.
RJ, you know what this item is.
We'll engage you, mate.
It's that thing.
Yeah. All right. So let's go ahead and have us roll initiative.
Natural 20 minus 1, 19.
All right. Well,
minus 1 kills me every time.
you can see he's a little slow to the draw of his sword. As you're kind of like squared off in the clearing, you see an opportunity. What would you like to do?
I'll cast Divine Favor on myself as a bonus action. So now, for the concentration duration, I deal an extra d4 radiant damage on all my attacks.
Okay. Is that a bonus action or is that your action?
Yeah, that's specifically a bonus action. And then I will... I'll step in and take a swing. Yeah.
All right, go ahead.
That's 17 to hit.
17? Okay. So you kind of speak a few, kind of arcane words and, cast this upon yourself. And then you step in and you strike, and it just glances off the plate mail. I mean, you hit him kind of like square on, in the chest, but as you do, it just, glances right off. So,
Fair enough.
all right. And then as you do that, he's just, hefts the sword and just, and steps in for a strike as well. Okay, 15 to strike.
Misses.
Okay, all right. So he swings through with his great sword and then just kind of like, misses altogether. And then he kind of like raises a hand at you, takes it off his weapon. And then with that, you see just kind of like this jet of flame like erupt from his hand and, kind of like seek you out, but he misses and it just kind of like catches a bit of dry grass on fire right behind you.
Okay. Good to know he has magic too. This will be fun. Alright. I am going to... What do I got here? Using the battle axe. Let's see. Yeah, I will make an attack with the battle axe. I'm just gonna sweep at him again with it.
Okay.
This one's an 18 to hit.
18? Okay. Now, you go. And you're kind of like swinging right for him. And then as you do that, like you can tell you're about to kind of like, strike. But as you do that, you see that he kind of like puts a hand up and then does a gesture. And then as opposed to striking him, you hit kind of like some force. Like
Bloody Eldritch Knights and their shield spells.
Yeah. So as you're going to strike him, you hit this force that's in front of him, and you can tell that it would have been a pretty good blow, but it doesn't even strike him at all. It's just kind of stopped in place in front of him by this force, this invisible force. Okay. Anything else?
Yeah, that's it. I'm just gonna smirk and kind of square up with the shield again. I'm not gonna bother trying to hit him with the shield because he's got that barrier up. So.
Okay. He lands a very well-placed blow.
Oh no. Great sword's hurt, man.
Can imagine so.
2d6 plus whatever. That's why I was mine.
When he strikes, it's for 19 points of damage.
Woo!
All right.
There's half my health gone.
Yeah. He steps in and just kind of like completely, puts his weight behind it, follows through, kind of like catches you in the side in a more kind of like compromised part of your armor, and just bites into your flesh deep. It hurts.
Kind of just start smiling through it. You see Kay gets a little wild-eyed once he's wounded.
Okay. All right. And then from there, does the same thing that he did before. Okay. I'm not even kidding you, Eric. I just rolled 2 natural 20s back to back. So.
Oh no.
Oh no.
This is horrible.
That's okay.
I know. I'm a firm believer in letting the roll stand.
Yeah, no, it's cool. If I go down, I go down.
That's another 10 points of damage. So
Yeah.
he bites into you with a sword, and then just flames erupt from his other hand as he takes it off the sword.
It's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
I don't know about you guys, but I'm on the sideline over here just cringing.
Yes, and everybody else just saw that. I mean, you saw Sir Pake, step in and almost floor Sir Kay with his first blow. And then as he does that, Sir Kay is just kind of like knocked off his balance, and then immediately just these flames erupt and just kind of like sear at Sir Kay's flesh and armor.
Okay, hold on, let me check my... Just need to check and see... Oh, that is a bonus action. Okay. Cool. I'm kind of standing there and like... I assume he's just bit into me with the greatsword and then followed up with the flames.
Mm-hmm.
So I just kind of smirk, and I'm like, I pull myself along the greatsword a little bit to get in real close under the guard. And as this is happening, you're going to see like this flash of the light that's usual, and I'm going to channel divinity as a bonus action, turn the tide, and give myself a d6 plus 3 hit points back.
Okay.
Because kind of needed it.
All right.
Okay, that's not bad. 7.
All right.
Do 7. No, 7, not 70. 70 would be nice right now, though. Okay, so I'm back up to 18 hit points, and then I'm just gonna like come in side swing for like the clavicle area with the axe.
Okay.
Natural 20?
All right. That hits.
Woo-woo.
This dice never likes me that much. What's going on? Well, first it gave me a really good initiative roll, and now it's done this. I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. Because usually it doesn't like me this much. Okay, if that's the case, and I know it's going to hit true, I'm pumping a Divine Smite into this.
Okay.
So I can choose to do that after I know I hit.
Okay.
So that's one more spell slot. And that is 3d8. Plus 2. That's 36 points of damage total.
Ooh. Nice.
Paladin's bro. I'm probably gonna die next turn. But
Junie's trying to contain her cheerleading on that.
yeah, now it looks like one of us has a great sword in him, and then the other has like an axe in his clavicle. We're just sort of hooked.
Yeah. All right.
Wallace is going to cast Thaumaturgy to have pom-poms to be like...
I was just gonna say Junie's gonna be like, hurrah!
Just please tell me that hurt him.
All right. I mean, no. When you so you kind of like slide yourself, in along the blade or whatever, and turn the tide, and then bring your battle axe down into the clavicle area. And as you do that, I mean, plate mail or no, you see the plate mail yield underneath your axe, and then as you withdraw your axe, I mean, you definitely get, a spurt, of blood, that just kind of like releases as you pull it out, and he definitely, it was a formidable blow that you just dealt him, So
Lovely. Oh, I forgot. I should have been rolling concentration checks for Divine Favor. So the first one I fail, so I don't do extra damage on it.
yeah. But anyway, as you do that, I mean, you kind of like you send him stumbling back a bit as well, So he regains his footing.
Yep.
Is that it?
That's all. I'm gonna. Nah, he wouldn't back up at all. Just gonna hold his ground.
Okay. All right. As you're kind of like holding your ground, like I said, you kind of like knocked him back. You stumbled him a little bit. And then as you do that, he puts his hand up. And I need you to make a deck save.
Deck save?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wynn is
Oh,
pulling
sorry.
out her herbalism kit, I think, at this point.
Just prepping. Okay, so it's a deck save. It's only targeting me, so I get to add my shield to this, right? Shield Master?
Can you do
'Cause
that
it's-
for deck saves?
For Shield Master, if it's an effect, if it's a deck saving throw targeting only me, then I can add my shield's AC bonus to it.
Yeah, and hold on. I want to make sure that it's a deck save real quick. So I'm looking up the spell.
Cool.
I thought it was probably a dex. No, it's a con save. Excuse me.
Oh.
So
I'm actually better at that than I would have been, so
Yeah.
that's okay.
But it's a con save, not a dex save.
15?
15. Okay.
Meanwhile, I'm just dueling like a death knight or something stupid.
All right. So as he puts his hand up, you're kind of like this, like lightning strikes in the sky overhead, just this flash of lightning, and you hear, this just immediate, like in your immediate vicinity, like clap of thunder, You take 3 points of damage from it. You're not like cast back or anything like that, You kind of like,
Cool.
you weather it,
Sweet.
And then everyone else around you hear this thunderclap. All right, and that's it.
If it's my turn, I'm just gonna look at him and I'm gonna say, I think it's best you yield, friend. That's the last you've got. You won't be winning this fight. And I'll pump all of my 20 points of lay on hands into myself and come back to near full.
All right. Now, as you say that, and as you do it, so that was your turn, right? That was your action.
That is my action. Yeah, that'll be it. I'm not gonna do anything as a bonus.
Okay.
I'll use my channel divinity. Load everything on this, guys. Why not?
So,
Sir K. Sir K. Sir K.
as you say that, and you dump your action into healing yourself, he, grasps his sword with two hands, and, just as he's swinging towards you, he's just like, I never intended to yield. And swings again. But he misses. He misses, but he lifts the same hand up. What? No, I don't even need to know that. So he lifts the same hand up and casts fire, or a flame erupts from it again for 3 points of damage. So his sword bites into the ground, but, kind of flames lick at your armor and flesh once more.
If that's the case, then that's the case. And I step back in. I'm gonna whack him. Hopefully.
All right.
Hold on here. Yeah. It's another 18.
All right. So you go to strike again. Again, he puts his hand up, and you meet that same force that you've met before.
Just pings off.
Yeah, you feel it, and then your sword is just kind of like cast to the side, with the rest of its energy, and it goes askew. And as you do it, he puts his hand up, and he's like, ah!
All right, I'm just gonna. Seeing as he's impervious currently, as far as I know, because what the hell do I know about arcane magic? I'm just gonna step up and put the shield up myself and wait for him to swing again. Because I know if he's swinging at me, he can't have that going. At least that's what I think at this point.
All right. Okay, that's going to be another miss on that.
This is what happens when you have two really tanky people going at each other.
So he swings at you again, grunting, missing, biting into the ground. I mean, you feel it come near you, but it doesn't strike, Yep. And then once more, hand up. Flames erupt. And only 2 points of damage.
Oh, man.
All right. And that's it. Until he's got a bit more labored breathing, You can tell he's working hard at what he's doing here.
Yeah, I'm a little wounded, but the full dose of lay on hands has done me well, and I'm just gonna kind of step up and just say, you have a chance to yield, friend. Don't make me kill a good man over this. And I'm gonna swing again. just for that same clavicle area that I parted.
Okay.
It's a 14, that misses.
Yeah.
But I will take the bonus action and try to shove with the shield.
Okay.
So that is, hold on, I need to actually check what a shove attack does, because I've never done one before. Shove. Okay, so this is my athletics versus their athletics or acrobatics.
Okay.
Please tell me I picked athletics.
All right. Tell me what you have.
A 19.
I have a dirty 20. So.
Dang. Okay, so just kind of pushing at each other at this point.
All right. Yeah. So he's just kind of a stalemate. You're trying to shove him back, but it doesn't quite happen. You can tell he's a pretty stout and beefy fellow. So.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. So you do that. And he kind of, doesn't really shove you back any considerable amount, but he like gets he kind of like shoves you off him, and then swings around with his great sword. Okay, that's going to be a hit.
Hit me back.
It's going to be 17 points of damage.
Nope, 17, not 71.
Yeah, 17.
71 would suck. Okay. Okay.
All right, and you brace yourself for the eruption of flame, but it doesn't happen this time.
Interesting. All right. One more shot.
Paint a picture for us. How are you right now?
I'm not quite dead, but I could be dead if I get hit one more time.
So you're looking really, really bad.
Is that visible to us?
Whether I live or die on his next hit depends on how well he rolls, because he can roll poorly and I can still survive. But if he rolls like max damage, then I'm down. I just don't want to give numbers because metagaming. So yeah, I'm just gonna kind of grimace / smirk the way I've been going this whole time. You can see Kay is like, he's trying to be polite about this, but he's in a weird way really enjoying this. Like, it's been a while since he's had just a knockdown, drag out brawl. So he's just going for it.
All right.
One more hit. Let's see. Okay, that's a 22.
22. All right.
He has another spell slot left.
He does. And the very same thing that you've experienced happens once more. You know that this would be a masterful blow, against a normal opponent. But much like you are equipped with a divine sort of magic, you can tell that, he has something similar working to his advantage as well.
All right, in that case, I'll pull my own rabbit out of my hat, and I'll Shield of Faith myself, so my AC is 20.
All right.
That's what I got.
All right.
So you'll see like the Borealis light flashes, and then all of a sudden I'm covered in over the chain shirt I'm wearing and chainmail I'm wearing, you see pieces of this flickering plate armor made out of actual just light show up.
Okay.
I'm gonna keep that on.
All right.
So the thing in Skyrim with the armor that goes over.
Yeah, the conjured armor, yeah, that kind of deal.
All right. He swings around with his sword again, but misses. And once more, he's not, there is no eruption of flame afterwards.
I'm just going to look at him and say, it seems we're both running out of tricks then. And I'm just going to swing again.
All right. Go ahead.
That's a 19.
19 will strike.
And it actually hits this time, right?
It actually hits this time.
Just double checking. Hold on. What's my bonus to damage here? 2. That's 5 points of damage.
5 points of damage. Okay. All right. You can tell that it hurts. So
Good.
you you
Okay.
swing, blade bites into him. Not
Uh,
not quite the arterial spray that you saw earlier. As you retracted your axe. But
I will try again for the shove attack. So contested
ahead.
athletics, acrobatics. It's a 19. All two 15s in a row.
Okay. All right. So what happens when you shove attack?
It basically just knocks him prone, so I kind of just shove him off his feet. Or, no, actually, I might be wrong. I might be thinking trip attack. Sorry.
It's okay. Check it. Let me know.
Click. Oh, I either knock the target prone or push it 5 feet away from me. So, yeah, I'll just sweep his legs out from under.
Okay. All right. You push with your shield. Trip him, and he falls back. In his armor. As he does that, though, he's a pretty formidable combatant, and you kind of like knock him down, and he kind of like quickly sort of scrambles to his feet again, and as he does, he brings his sword up like this. If you were done with your turn.
Just stay down. I don't step back. I have not once stepped backwards this entire fight.
Okay.
I'm still cringing. Junie's still cringing.
All right. He swung up towards you with his sword, but missed once more.
Wallace is like mid-dance, man. He's like just working it, you know what I mean, with these like illusionary pom-poms.
Please stay down. I don't want to kill you. It's a 19 again.
19 will strike.
Apparently. That's 7 points of damage.
All right.
I missed my great sword, guys. I really missed my great sword, guys.
As you
might have another one after this.
as you bite into him with your blade, once more he's just like, and you see, he's bleeding significantly. This was, a pretty big clearing in the forest, and that it had snowed within the last couple of days. And so, this area is very much kind of like blanketed in a snow. And as you look down, you see that there's kind of like drops of blood, pooling in the snow, like all around,
Yep.
where you
So that's
battle.
fine.
Some of it is yours, for sure. All right.
By this point, probably quite a lot of it, actually. I'm going to try and shove him again, and I'm just going to say, you yield.
All right. Go ahead and try to shove.
It's a 12.
All right. Roll again.
Ooh, really? Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, 16.
Okay. All right. You shove him prone again. About the
This
same.
time I'm not nice about it. I don't like sweep his legs. I like take the edge of the shield and I bash him in the face with it.
Okay. All right.
Just right at the eye level.
Yeah. Well, you do that. You send him to the ground. But again, same thing as earlier. He. This is the thing that I'll tell you. Even though that you don't know this particular person, you think that if you were to yield, he would probably allow you to yield. But he's also made it quite clear he has no intentions of yielding to you. You're kind of familiar with knights, you being one yourself.
Yeah.
He told you that his father guarded this barrow, his grandfather before that guarded this barrow. They were charged by this Duke of Intermore, to guard it for whatever reason, unknowns to you. So
Yeah.
you don't feel like he's going to yield to you. So, and you get that. You have no desire.
Down anytime soon.
What's that?
I'm not backing down anytime soon.
Yeah.
It's not in Kay's nature.
Yeah. Right. Well, I assume that Kay probably has no desire to really kill this man, but you can tell that he's not going to yield, without a doubt. So, and with that, he scrambles to his feet once more, brings the blade up in an attempt to strike you. All right. This is a strike.
Okay.
8 points of damage.
I am still up.
All right.
Surprisingly.
Holy crap.
All
Yeah,
right.
paladins can take a beating.
At this point, I've like kind of stopped hanging with pom poms. I'm now looking at June.
All right. So he brings the blade up, and it just kind of like slices, kind of like on the inner part of your thigh, a bit as he brings it up.
So, are we both looking pretty terrible right now? Like, he's looking pretty hurt, I'm looking pretty hurt?
He's definitely looking pretty hurt. Yeah.
So I got 5 hit points left, so this is going to be...
I think you might have to try to go for a kill. If that was already your intention.
Wallace is literally a bar head away from getting involved. He is so really, really close to
Well,
getting involved.
it's one of those things where, like, since he's not yielding, it's going to go till one of us is face down in the dirt.
Yeah.
It's just that's my next turn if he hits me.
Judy's on the sideline like those old school cartoons where like it's just biting her nails constantly like a typewriter back and
It's
forth.
just like
That's what Judy is right now.
Yeah, I'm just swinging for the fences. Let's do this. 22. It's a natural 18.
That strikes.
It's an 8 on the dice, so 10 points of damage. Please tell me he goes down.
10 points of damage. Tell me how you drop him.
Dear Lord. After everything that's been going down, you'd see me, I'm just going to take the greatsword to the shield, kind of pull it aside with the axe, like hook and pull, and then I'm going to left hand with the shield bash him in the helm again and knock him unconscious, but I'm not going to kill him. So it's non-lethal damage.
Okay. All right. You do that. You bash him in the face with the shield. Couple of teeth, dislodge from his mouth as he just spits blood all against the snow and then falls into the snow. Most certainly unconscious.
Oh, that's exhausting.
I'm
He's
gonna-
about my size, right?
He's about your size, yeah.
Anybody mind helping me take off his armor?
Yeah.
I would be happy to do that. I'm gonna come over and
Yeah, thanks. I'm kind of out of spell slots and lay on hand, so I could use it.
yeah, I'm gonna cast Cure Wounds. That's a spell slot. So you regain 7 plus 3. So you get 10 hit points.
Hey, thank you, sir. Okay. I'm conscious and, like, not bleeding out. I'm good. I'm good.
Alright.
Okay.
That was insane.
I'll help you take his armor off.
Yeah, I'll get in on that too.
All right.
Right. I'm just gonna go over this, and I'm just like taking the chest plate off, and like while he remains unconscious, it's gonna change into his armor.
All right. So this is possible. I do want to question though, because we've talked about this a little off stream before, and you were mentioning what you want to do with armor and stuff like that. It is plate mail. Are you able to wear the plate mail?
Oh, I don't think so, because I took Shieldmaster. You're right.
Ooh.
We should just get rid of it, man. We should, because if he comes back and we should just get rid of it.
That's a player mistake. If I know I'm not fit enough to wear it, Kay would just leave it on him, and I would actually say that to the group, like, don't bother taking it because I can't physically wear it.
Okay, well, is there anything else that we can take?
Aye, can I look him? Can I just see what's on him? Like just run it through
That's what I'm
us?
saying. That's the
Oh, I can't stop Wallace, but I will take the bag of holding back because I have a healing potion in there that I've been saving.
Okay.
As you do, I'm going to tell you about the thing that Toby says. So as you sort of like got to take the bag of holding, I'll be like, listen, when you put your hand in there, mate, there might be a black stone that I stole from Hazel, but whatever. Toby was sleeping with it, and I don't trust him with it. I think it's something important, but I'll talk to you about that later.
Okay. So I got 8 hit points back for the potion, and I'm just going to say, keeping all things away from Toby's a good idea. We'll talk about the stealing from Hazel thing afterwards.
Aye. So do I need to make like a check or that, or like
Right.
what do I see when I run
You
through?
you check around him. I mean, as far as what he's got on him right here, you're not finding like a pouch with like coin or anything like that. And you smart like you're looking around. You can tell that this person probably does not leave this area at all. He's pretty much kind of like encamped and set up here. You're looking around and you see probably where he, prepares food, and you find like, I mean, probably there's an area there where you see things like, uh, fishing poles, and I mean, you can tell that he like, there'll be like animal skins stretched and stuff like that as well. So you can tell he's fairly self-sufficient and not in need of like coin or anything like that. So you don't find that. As you're looking kind of like around him, I mean, the great sword is a fine weapon. You can tell that without a doubt. It's got a black
Yeah.
hilt,
See, the player in me cannot resist a black weapon. Yeah, I'll take it. And then like I'll take it and I'll like put it in whatever kind of like sheath or pouch I had on my back for my old greatsword. And then I'll just be like, well, I'm going to move him to whatever bed he has, and then we can get in there and get out hopefully before he wakes up again. So then I'll just like heft him up, and like I'm not going to be able to fireman's carry him in full plate armor, so I'm just gonna like hold him up and sort of like, you know, the thing you do when a toddler can't walk yet, so you just mimic them walking and you kind of puppet them.
Mhm.
Basically gonna do that with a full-size person by the edges of the armor, just be like,
It's pretty difficult, but you'll manage to get him inside of his pavilion. And as you go in there, I mean, there is kind of like a bed, not like a wooden bed or anything like that, but like a straw mattress or whatever with some kind of like blankets on it. So you're able to get him in there, and there's like a table, some chairs, and stuff like that. You can tell he's pretty well outfitted, for being out here. But you're able to get him in there, and he's very much unconscious, but for sure that he's not bleeding out. He's stable. And I will also say this, I mean, within fighting other knights, like if you can best a knight, you would be well within your rights to take their arms and ransom them back to them and things upon things like that. So it's not entirely too dishonorable to take his weapon, given that you've spared his life. So
I'll take the greatsword. Does he have any other like weapons in the pavilion, like stuff he would use as a replacement if he lost a greatsword? Does it appear?
yeah, I mean, you look in there. There's other weapons, like halberds, things like that. So you can tell he's outfitted pretty well. But this appears to be the finest
Okay.
weapon amongst them all. So
Is there another longsword around?
a longsword? Yeah, you can find a longsword there.
Okay, I'll swap that longsword for the one that's slightly acid melted, and I'll
Okay.
sheath that with the greatsword on my back, and then I will actually leave the executioner's axe with him, and in case he wakes up, I will scrawl a note and put on it, like basically just leave it on the head of the axe, and I'll say, keep the weapon that bested you. It might do you better than me. And I'll take the greatsword that way.
Okay. All right. You do that then. Again, this is a fine weapon. It's much better quality than the weapon you had been wielding in Mournton and lost during the attack of the Eyeless. The hilt is just kind of like this sable hilt. It's wrapped in something that's black. The metal is fine and been well taken care of. And as you're using this weapon, you can add a +1 greatsword to your inventory.
Hey, first magic weapon of the game.
All right. So
I'm very excited.
you acquire that. Now, as you leave the pavilion, you look around. And again, as I mentioned, there are 3 graves there, all marked, kind of like with these wooden markers. You look beyond the pavilion, and there's this mound of dirt, and it's moss covered. And kind of at the front of it, you see these old kind of like stones, kind of like worked into the earth. And there is this entrance, and from where you are, it just kind of like looks like this black archway, kind of like small. You'd have to stoop a bit to go through it, most of you. Wallace, you could walk through it, I'm sure. Just being a dwarf, but that's what you see there.
Well,
Just get this coin.
We may as well go in.
I'm okay enough to go in, I hope.
By the way, before we go any further, I have back to Hazel, but I have a theory on what this stone is. I believe she's the one that's been watching us.
That would be a great theory, except I detected that thing last night with a spell that I know, and it was using conjuration magic instead of divination. Which divination is usually the one used to actually spy on things. So.
Well, yeah, let's hope she didn't notice that I took that.
I feel that we can discuss the purpose of the stone on the way back. Can we just do what we came here for and
Yes.
get gone?
I hope we don't come across any more trouble.
Right, and I do want to just kind of like make a correction, just so that it's not a black stone. Like the previous thing that Toby had when in his possession was a kind of black onyx stone with 2 white bands on it, and it was just kind of like in the size of his palm, basically. Smaller to you all, being that Toby was a gnome. But this thing is definitely not a stone. It is like a sphere of metal, about the size of a softball, outside of game terms. So it's pretty sizable, sphere, and as opposed to being made out of like a stone, it is very much a metal. You can tell, if you thump it, it clinks or whatever. A little bit, shiny, even though it's black. It's kind of got this glossy black surface to it. And then there are those sigils etched within the surface of it. It looks more like a mechanical device than a stone or something natural. So I just wanted to make sure you understand what you have in your possession.
Yeah.
Definitely not a stone. Okay?
Right. Well,
Alright, which one do we
I'm going to assume this place is trapped.
probably.
Can I cast Find Traps?
Okay. So if
concentration spell.
I'll need to check.
Hold on. Okay, where is my
No, it's instantaneous. Within 120 feet.
Oh damn. It's huge.
within 120 feet, is that what you said?
Yeah, it can't tell, but it can just say, like, so you sense the presence of any trap within range that's within line of sight. A trap for the purpose of the spell includes anything that would inflict a sudden or unexpected effect you consider harmful or undesirable. So that includes, it would sense like alarm spells, glyphs of warding, mechanical pit traps, but it wouldn't reveal a natural weakness in the floor or something. So like something not necessarily trap, but something to do with the infrastructure or something, like if it just like collapses or something.
Right. Well, you
It
can.
would have to be put there on purpose.
It
Yeah.
also doesn't tell me the location, it just says it's a present.
Okay. You certainly detect the presence of a trap within 120 feet.
Lovely.
Yay.
So, best bet, I'm already wounded. Let me go first so that the rest of you stay hale and healthy and can just keep me awake if necessary.
Okay.
I guess.
It's just better off. I'm already tapped out of spells anyway, so at least the rest of you can stay safe and
I mean, it's
waste your
logical, but
resources.
okay. Yeah, go for it. I guess.
Scratch my last potion up. Alright, holding. Alright. I'm gonna go first and hopefully keep an eye for any traps.
Okay. All right. So you're heading within the Barrow Mound. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So again, as I've described to you, there is kind of like this mound, and it's moss covered, and then there are the stones kind of like flanking the entranceway to it. You go down within the entranceway, and it's pretty dark in there, but you do have dark vision, or at the very least, low light vision. And as you enter in there, you can see kind of like just beyond this entranceway, about 5 feet in, there is a wooden door, but you see no way to open the wooden door. There's not a handle or anything like that, and you know that this is a burial site, so you assume that this is kind of like more ornamental than anything else. You know, I mean, no one's really intending someone to go in or come out of this place.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is there's a door, and you see no way of opening the door.
Yeah, that axe would be great right about now. Nah, I'm not gonna go get it.
Can I?
Can I just walk up and poke it and see if it swings in?
It does not. It's
Okay,
pretty
cool.
firm.
Do we want to try axes on it? Because I have 2.
I mean, we can both
Be
swing.
careful. I would not just take what happened as in the prison as an example to tread with caution. I think we should maybe look to see if there's anything that could potentially cause us harm before we just go charging in.
Obviously, I wasn't just
You just
gonna
kind of
throw an
gesture
axe at it.
toward. I just sort of gesture Wallace towards the door and be like, "Be my guest."
Can I make an investigation check to see if there's any like mechanical traps on it or anything?
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, I don't have the best intelligence, but
Yeah, I know that. Wallace, not Lewis. Wallace.
that's fine. Mate. You're right. I mean, Wallace has an intelligence of 8.
All right, so make your investigation check.
How the hell is Kay smarter than you?
I'm more like wise and intelligent, better judge of character as opposed to like smart intellectually.
Lewis, did you make an investigation check for Wallace?
Yes. 2.
Oh, it's 2. Okay. Yeah, no. You enter within the barrow, and, you know, much as I described to Eric in what Sir Kay saw, you know, it's just a door. It looks ornamental. You've sensed traps, but you know that your 120 feet lies beyond this door, so it could be something further in the barrow. So it looks like an ornamental door. Even though it's ornamental, you know, kind of press on it, you know, kind of like Sir Kay did, and you can tell it's sturdy. You know, I mean, it's a large oaken door.
Okay, so
I have.
Or I said large.
Okay,
It is a sturdy oaken
First of
door.
all, first of all, as a group, do we think there's something nefarious going on with this door?
I feel like if there's a trap, it's gonna happen like when the door comes down. Like I feel like that's gonna be the trigger for it. But I also feel like whatever trap it is, it's probably not gonna reach beyond like the doorway by much.
Like I said, like I have 2 hand axes, plus I have the carpenter's tools.
Can you like dismantle the door? Like, you know, like
That
Yeah,
might work.
maybe take it off it. Like, can any of us use carpenter's tools? But like,
I can. Obviously, I think. I don't know. I have it. I'm assuming I can.
No, you would need proficiency in carpenter's tool. I mean, you can use them. You're probably not
Right.
proficient in them. You would have something on your character sheet that says proficient with carpenter's tools. And given your background, I don't think you have proficiency with carpenter's tools.
I'm a wood elf. Okay, I do remember reading something. Okay.
I believe you are a woods elf, not a woodsman elf.
Same difference. Okay. Yeah. I do remember reading it when I picked the Poisoner's Kit. So let me see if I can find that again. Yeah, I picked the Poisoner's Kit. But it requires a workshop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's just I say, like, kind of out of character planning here, we can just have Kay, Junie stand on either side of the door, take a swing from, like, out of the scope of the doorway, and then just have the other two make sure they're out of the scope of it in case anything happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, Wallace is kind of just going to do it. And walk kind of back and let you.
Actually, does Wynn have Firebolt by any chance?
Yes.
Ooh,
I think that works.
Should we try and burn the door down?
Might be easier.
kind of for
Burn them
that.
all.
Okay.
I
Well,
feel
well.
if nothing else, I feel it'll weaken it, hopefully.
Yeah, maybe. Plus, it's targeted. Like, we don't have to worry about spraying, praying fire all over the place anymore, too. Which is probably
True.
Yes.
So.
Okay.
All right, so y'all tell me what's going on. What are you doing?
Yeah, I will cast Firebolt toward the door.
Okay.
Like, let's just do it from a safe distance, like outside the barrow. So we're just like line of sight to the door.
Yes. I'm
Yeah.
for that.
Oh yeah.
All right,
I have
so
120 feet range.
you'll firebolt it from a distance away, and you can very much tell that the door catches fire. You know, I mean, it's wood; it's a flammable thing,
Mhm.
so it catches fire and burns. And it was thick wood, so it burned. I mean, it doesn't it doesn't turn to like. I mean,
Yeah,
you're talking about a short amount of time. You know, it's
Yeah,
it's
okay.
actively burning. You know, like I mean, if you're waiting for it to turn to cinder and ash,
It's significantly weakened though by the fire damage.
possibly.
Maybe.
Well, that doesn't help either.
I mean, after the first shot, I'll go in and I'll take a chop at it with an axe to see if it caves.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
See if it's weak enough.
So you let it burn for a bit. You take a chop at it. You're not talking about your executioner's axe, right?
No. This would just be a hand axe. I think it is.
Okay, hand axe.
I
Okay,
think that's
go ahead.
6. It's a 12 to hit.
12. All right. Give me what your damage would be versus something like that.
That is 6 points of damage.
Okay, so you do 6 points of damage to it, and you know structurally there, you can tell it's most certainly compromised. But when you bite into it with your axe, you know it does shatter a good bit, but part of it's still hanging on the frame. And again, you set it aflame with the axe, but you would be. I mean, think about burning wood on a campfire. You would be here for a long time trying to burn it to cinder or something like that, So
Yeah.
it's weaker. You definitely shatter some of it, but it's a large portion of the door is still there, So what do you do?
Alternate back and forth, firebolt and axe until it comes down, I guess.
Okay.
That works for
Seems to
me.
be the easiest way to do it.
All right.
Yeah.
So you'll do that a couple more times. Now on your third swing with the axe, and it's a fairly stable target, so I'm going to assume that you're striking each time. On your third swing, the door will just kind of like burst in. As it does that, you kind of like there's this within the smoke. There's this kind of like sound, and I don't know if you caught that on the mic, but it's just kind of like this puff. Give me a con save.
Yeah, I figured. That's a 13.
13. So, it's nothing that you can really see because it's pretty smoky where you are right now from where the door has been burning. But again, you hear this sound. You think that something happened when you burst in the door, the second time, And just as you're breathing, because you just had this battle, and while we were only going kind of like one strike at a time, I'm sure you're pretty much working at the door with it. Maybe even like putting your shield and shoulder into it as well, and you're just kind of like panting and breathing. And as you do, something other than the smoke, this very kind of like caustic, something that you breathe in, sharp and acrid and whatever, just kind of like burns your mouth and your nostrils as you breathe it. And you take 2 points of damage.
Lovely. That's
All right.
Beautiful.
Now, from there, I'm going to need everyone to roll initiative. And I know we don't normally take 2 breaks, but I've got to go to the restroom real quick. So let's take a very short break. And you all roll your initiative. And when we resume, I'll tell you what's going on. Okay?
I got 14.
6.
Hang on a sec.
All right. I'll just check in with you all when I get back. So, if you've stuck around for the video this long, thank you for watching. Unfortunately, when we shot this video, I had some problems with my audio on the latter part after this break. But essentially what happened is our heroes, the party, manages to break into the barrow mound. And when they do that initially, as you just saw, Sir Kay experiences this, kind of like breaking in the door, and then he hears this puff and then begins to inhale this very caustic kind of chemical. And from there, after they let the air clear out a little bit, they begin to make their way into the barrow, and they find that there are roots and things growing through the stone and the wall, and there's debris strewn about the floor, and there are rocks just kind of like stacked in there. And they go a little further into the barrow, and then from the darkness, arrows began to be loosed toward them. And a couple of them, take some injury from being shot by arrows, and they make their way further into the barrow, and they discover that Earl Roggenwalder is indeed not dead, but undead. He's become a wight and has been in this barrow and just kind of like he's been driven crazy just by being in here isolated, not being able to escape. There are fingernails kind of like in the wall from where they can tell he's tried to claw his way out. But essentially, they do, after a few rounds of combat, manage to defeat Earl Roggenwalder the White, and they recover the coin that Hazel had requested them to come get. In addition to that, they also recover a bit of a small fortune. They find a chest with some gold in it and some gems in it, and I do believe they also recovered a very nice longbow and a very nice shield. So that's kind of where we ended our episode that night, and then it just picks up in the following episode. So once again, if you watched all this way, sorry we didn't get to include the last bit of play, but it's really just it's their voices and you see me talking but nothing coming out. So this is a very condensed version of what happened, but hopefully this suffices to kind of give you an idea of what went on in this episode. So thanks again for watching.